Welcome back to Real Clear Daf video, in which we'd like to take a closer look at something from the week's Daf Yomi. This week I'd like to take a look at the Gemara we learned on Thursday's Daf, that's Kuf Amud Aleph. The Gemara there discusses the following case. Once upon a time, a person had a pot of meat and gravy too, and also liquid in the pot, everything kosher. But then a piece of nevela, a non-kosher piece of meat, fell into the pot. So, a classic kind of situation. So Rabbi Bar Bar Chana there rules that if we have the volume of the permitted substances, meat, liquid, gravy, everything there, if all of that equals 60 times the volume of the prohibited piece of meat, then it's not a problem. The whole mixture is permitted. Rav there strongly objects to Rabbi Bar Chana's rule, even though seemingly sounds very neutral, very parv, no pun intended. But Rav comes along and says, I have an issue with this. And it's a little more, subtle here, because it's not really with something that Rabbi Bar Chana, stated explicitly. It's what he implies. For the categorical nature of, he just categorically says that if we have 60 times the permitted stuff, then it's fine. Implies that would hold true even if there was like a progression here. Even if initially in the pot we only had, let's say, two pieces. We had one kosher piece and one nevela piece. Rabbi Bar Chana implies that even if we only added the other stuff later, and we added more pieces later, and the liquid, it would still be okay. We could still nullify that non-kosher piece. That's what Rav takes issue with. For Rav says it's not true. For in reality, what happens is that when you had just two pieces in the pot, let's call them piece A and piece B, as soon as piece A transferred tam, the forbidden nevela flavor, to piece B, it's not just that piece B has, a prohibited flavor floating around in there. Rather, piece B halachically is inherently considered a piece of nevela. It's as if that piece is pork or nevela, whatever it is. Like if you would put piece B in a different mixture, we would have to judge the problem as the complete volume of the piece. The whole piece is inherently prohibited. That's Rav's first point. Rav then makes the point that you can't use nullification here, because you can't use those other pieces of meat to nullify the non-kosher piece of meat. It's all meat. It's meat and meat. So that's what we call min b'mino. The two elements of the mixture are the same type. So Rav says, in such a case, you can't use bittul. So the Gemara points out that obviously Rav is assuming like the Tana Rabbi Yehuda, who, as we saw already previously in these very important dafim for studying the laws of taruvas, kashrus, we already saw previously, and certainly in other mesechtas too, Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, I should say, that when the mixture contains elements of the same type, like over here, where it's both meat, we don't use nullification. We can't nullify the prohibited piece. So Rav says, I don't agree with this ruling at all. He says this is not the halacha, and really there would be, this mixture is problematic. Now the Gemara analyzes Rav's critique of the statement here of Rabbi Bar Bar Chana. The Gemara wonders why Rav needed both of these points. For seemingly Rav could have made his point just by saying the second thing. All he has to say is that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, min b'mino, if it's both the same type, it's meat and meat, and therefore you can't nullify the non-kosher piece, and that's it. That would make his point. That's it. That's all you need to say to conclude that this mixture is not permitted. You can't use nullification here, plain and simple. Why did Rav have to preface by saying that, well, first, piece A made piece B, turned piece B into an inherently prohibited piece? Why did he need that? So in the Gemara's first answer, Abaye's answer, Abaye says that we're talking about a case where, initially he put this piece of nevela in the pot with the kosher piece. It was just those two pieces. And before adding other ingredients, he removed the nevela piece. That's what we're dealing with. So with this, Abaye explains, now we understand that therefore Rav needed to first tell us that it doesn't matter that he removed the nevela piece, because the nevela piece already converted the other piece, the piece that it touched, into it itself became a nevela piece, and therefore we can't just use nullification to say it's not a problem. No, it itself is a nevela, and we have a problem. The problem is, the Rishonim will ask that, how did Abaye answer the question? And so what that he removed the original nevela piece? Okay, let's again leave out the first point. Let's assume that it's not true, that the piece B doesn't turn into a piece that's inherently considered nevela. Still, all you need to say is that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that since we're dealing with elements that are of the same type, you can't use nullification. And therefore, you can't deny the fact that piece B does contain prohibited flavor, definitely got in there from the first piece before it was removed. And so, how did Abaye answer the question? You can't use nullification. We're going like Rabbi Yehuda, so we have the same type here. It's meat and meat, and so you have some forbidden flavor in this mixture. So what is going on? Why does Rav need this part about that piece B became, it itself is considered nevela? Why is that part of the point? So Shon give different answers. The Ran's answer is that he says, Rabbi Yehuda is very terse, very short, brief words. He says, Rabbi Yehuda is teaching that min b'mino, that we're in the same type, we don't use nullification, doesn't apply when you have a situation like this where the piece, and again in this hypothetical, that if we're not considering piece B nevela, well then it's giving off forbidden flavor, but it's also giving off permitted flavor. So he says Rabbi Yehuda's teaching doesn't apply. It's very hard for me to understand what this Ran is saying. How do we understand this? Let's go over again. What does Rabbi Yehuda hold? Rabbi Yehuda holds you could have 1,000, 1,000,000 parts that are permitted. It doesn't matter. If there is a little tiny itty bitty part that's not kosher, and it's the two elements are the same type, everything is asur. So what is this distinction here? What does it matter? Yeah, that's true. Of course, piece B also is providing some permitted kosher flavors. But so what? We're going like Rabbi Yehuda, and so since there is an amount of prohibited flavor, that should make the whole mixture not kosher. And that got me thinking about Rabbi Yehuda's opinion in general. And it occurred to me as follows. Let's really try to understand this. And let's step back here and think about your classic case of bittul barov. What have we been learning these past stuff? And we've been learning that it's not good enough to have a simple majority of kosher pieces. No. Because tam ke'ikr, the non-kosher piece, it gives off a non-kosher flavor. So that's a problem. The Rishonim deal with the problem of why? How does that make sense? Why on the basis of the tam should this be prohibited? We normally go by rov, and that should be it. We don't know where the prohibited piece is, so that's it. The case should be closed. So the Rishonim will offer different theories there's a Ravid who says that no, if we could taste the prohibited part, then like that's considered that we're able. It's not really lost in the mixture because we could taste it. But even though, what do you mean? It is lost, and we don't really know where it is. We just have knowledge that it's there because we could taste it. And really, the commentators struggle to exactly nail down why we should even need shishim. Why do we need to get rid of the taste even? So now, on that backdrop, let's think about what Rabbi Yehuda is saying. Rabbi Yehuda is talking about where you have 1,000, 1,000,000 kosher parts. So obviously the taste even is completely imperceptible. You can't taste it even at all. And yet the mixture is prohibited. How do we understand it? And the truth is, as we saw on Tuesday's daf, on Tzarich Chesed Beis, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't create this from his own, he doesn't derive this through logic. He doesn't say that it's reasonable that this should be the halacha. He learns this from a pasuk. He derives this from the pasuk by the Yom Kippur Avodah, that the Torah refers to the dam of the sa'ir, the goat sacrificial blood in Yom Kippur, that's mixed with the bull blood. Torah still calls the goat blood, the dam sa'ir, even though there's much more the bull's blood. So apparently, the goat's blood doesn't get nullified. So this is Rabbi Yehuda's source that by min b'mina, since it's blood and blood, nullification doesn't apply. So I'd like to suggest that this is what we call a pure gzeras hakasif. This is not something that is operating on the sort of our rational notions of how nullification should work. It's gzeras hakasif. The Torah says by min b'mino we suspend the law of nullification. So perhaps we could suggest that once this is in the category of gzeras hakasif, well, the rule by gzeras hakasif is that you have to limit the scriptural teaching to the specific kind of situation in which the Torah taught it. And so if you have any kind of circumstance that's different, any quality that differs from the original kind of conditions in which the Torah taught it, then it doesn't apply. And now I think the Ran is very easy to understand. The Ran is saying that there is a distinction here. The case that we're dealing with is not a straightforward, you have a prohibited item mixed in. You're right, even if, with tons of permitted items, we normally see, Rabbi Yehuda says that the permitted part isn't nullified. But there's something different here, which is that, yes, there's we have this piece that's emitting a forbidden flavor, but it also at the same time emits a kosher flavor. So it's like pushing the gas and the brakes at the same time. That already, I think it's very reasonable that constitutes a distinction that at least enables us to say that this is not exactly the same kind of case as the Torah was discussing when it taught this halacha of min b'mino eino batel. And we therefore go back to our logic, which says certainly logic dictates that we can't taste the prohibited flavor, and therefore in halacha we should say it doesn't exist. Indeed, that's what we say in this case. It's only because Rav prefaces that no, peace be became inherently nevela, that therefore we say, oh no, this is a situation where Yehuda's teaching of min b'mino eino batel applies, and that's why all the contents in the pot become prohibited. And that's why Rav objected to Rabbi Bar Chana's teaching. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.